Hello, my name is Eric Cedillo, and I'm an attorney here in Dallas and a founder of March to the Polls, and I'm the National Legal Advisor to LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, and a couple other things that I think we're going to get into a little bit more deeply. But I am here with my good friend Byron Sanders, and I want Byron to kind of introduce himself just briefly. We'll talk about the topic, and then we'll kind of get in a little bit deeper so people kind of get an understanding of who and what we're all about. So, Byron Sanders.
Hey, my man. Appreciate the conversation today, brother. I'm so glad you reached out. So, again, Byron Sanders, by day, CEO of Arete Health, which is a healthcare innovation firm that I founded where we use healthcare benefits, insurance in order to create revolutionary care to healthcare through revolutionary access.
Very cool.
And so we do a ton of things in that world, but also, you know, my life is all about service and has been about service, you know, since before my adulthood. So I have the pleasure of serving on Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees, representing Power D5, District 5.
There you go.
South Oak Cliff, West Dallas, Wilma Hutchins, all of that. Let's go. Cedar Springs area. So love that. And then just do a lot more in the community as well, serving on the board of the Foundation for Dallas College and on my alma mater's board of trustees, University of Tulsa, and then, you know, deep in community as well. I'm an Oak Cliff kid. Oak Cliff, grew up Oak Cliff, DeSoto, and so for Oak Cliff and a number of other organizations out there, that's home. That's where we raise our family, and that's what I love.
OC.
Hey.
Okay, Byron. Honestly, I've known you for a few years, and I love this guy. I just love how genuine you are.
Likewise.
I really respect what you do for the community across the board. Just most recently, I think what I came across on social media was a post by you regarding the Talarico campaign, and you know, kind of where he's at. You know, especially with some of the things that kind of came out in the initial, you know, back and forth with Jasmine. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about the actual post that you put out and kind of the timing. I think people may be seeing this in the future. Right now we're sitting here, is what, July 9th, something like that? So we have a few months to November, but your post, I think, was timely in the sense that we kind of need to get this figured out if we're going to really do something in November. So tell us a little bit about the actual post that you made, the response that you were getting, and what it was all about.
I had to ring the alarm because of something, because of what I was seeing and also what I heard and what I experienced. And I'll give the caveat that everything I'm talking about here today and everything I posted online, that is Byron as a citizen.
Right.
You know, this isn't me working in the capacity of any of the things I just named. But so months ago, last year, sometime in 2025, there was a roundtable with James Talarico for his Senate campaign. Texas, running to be one of our two senators here in Texas, represent us federally. And it was a group of young black leaders, had a roundtable out in South Dallas. Well, in that conversation, he had just recently launched, or officially, I can't even remember what month it was, but he had launched, and I had been a fan of James Talarico for a long time. The reason why is because of his education advocacy as a state rep here in the Texas House.
Former school teacher.
School teacher. So one, he was fighting passionately for kids. He would fight passionately along a number of different domains, including pushing back against vouchers, those kinds of things. Public school guy. I was like, okay, so he gets it. So I was pleased when I learned that he was going to be running. I was like, okay, that's actually a strong candidate. One of the other things that really stood out for me was him really leading with his faith. Faith is everything to me. It's written in my mission statement. You know, I'm a member of Concord Church here, have been since 2000. Bottom line is, I thought he was a solid guy. So we had this conversation, and that opinion didn't change. But what I did say is, I had seen at that point, you know, he'd been campaigning for a little bit, the fire and the energy that I got from some of his clips that went viral from him serving, I hadn't seen that yet in the campaign. And I was saying that because I was trying to give, maybe, I don't know if I wasn't explicit enough, but I was trying to say, hey, you're going to need to get the black folks' attention around here.
And let me just kind of get, if I can, in my own head, the chronology. This was after he won the primary, before he.
This is before he won the primary.
Okay, and
this is actually before Jasmine
came in.
This is before Jasmine even came in.
Right.
And so we're having this conversation, and he's reserved. I don't know if I don't want to say that he was uncomfortable, but it wasn't the kind of conversation where I was like, you know what, I'm leaving here. Let's go. That's my guy. We about to hit it.
Yeah.
Because one of the other things that I heard was a lack of specificity. It seemed as though he was doing a lot of listening.
Right.
Which is important. Right. You can't come in here with a presumption of just knowing everything.
Yeah.
But also, one of the questions and several of the questions in the conversation was, what are you going to do specifically for black Texans?
Sure.
And there were very thin answers.
Yeah.
So I left there and I had to leave early. And so I kind of took the liberty of having to leave early, say, hey, I got to go early. Sorry, everybody. I just want to say one thing. What I told him was, we're going to need you to really come with some fire. We're going to need you to come with some sauce that can connect with black Texans.
Right.
I had to use short form. I couldn't use long form. But that's what I shared with them. And then, went on about my business, kind of shared that feedback with the person who arranged the conversation, in hopes that it would get across.
Right.
Time goes on. Jasmine declares, I'm Team Jasmine. And I'm gonna tell you why I was Team Jasmine. Because I believe, particularly when we're talking about the black community, one, she's got name recognition, and her voice had broken through the cloud cover that usually hangs low when we're talking about electoral stuff in Texas or really across the country.
Yeah.
Dallas has terrible voter participation. Even in our mayoral races, we're in the single digits oftentimes, right? So we're gonna need somebody to get people excited, because you're not gonna win Texas for blue if you're bringing out the usual suspects.
Right.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
So we're gonna actually literally have a wave. So you're gonna need somebody who can go viral. You're gonna need somebody who's got some fight in them, because we're in an era of fight right now. The old tricks are not gonna get us where we need to get. And so I was saying, you either win by getting converts or you win by turnout. I thought that James's candidacy spoke well to try and get some converts, some people who might be in the middle of the road or might be even like more center right than anything, and then getting them to show up for a good, decent guy who would advocate, for things that are very consistent with folks' common decency, morality, and all of that.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was the best angle, but I could see it as an angle.
Right.
So Jasmine runs, and then of course, fast forward, we know James won the primary. So James is the guy now.
Yeah.
My thought was immediately, you better go get all of those Jasmine people. You better go get all of those Jasmine people. And because I was close to the Jasmine campaign, I already knew that you're not going to have an active shouldering of the weight that Jasmine was going to take on in order to go and run and win for James.
Right.
And you know what? Not her responsibility. She did what she needed to do. She's like, I am endorsing him. We need to get behind him. Y'all do it, right? But I kept seeing two things happen after that. One, I did not see a full-throated, rapid pursuit and a vigorous pursuit of all those people who were Jasmine supporters, the majority and predominantly and heavily black folks here in Texas. Right. I didn't see that.
Right.
And then two, I kept hearing, not necessarily from James, but I heard from a lot of people who were James supporters, and I wouldn't call them surrogates, but people who had been real big champions of him. Yeah. Jasmine, come help. I can't believe you're not helping. Where's Jasmine right here? And I was like, y'all, if these two things continue to be the narrative for us, we're gonna lose.
Right.
It's not even a question, we're gonna lose. Fast forward a little bit further, James came to Dallas, and there was a I wouldn't call it a round table because it was a bigger group, but maybe about 100 of, probably about, close, anywhere between 50 to 100 of black leaders from different domains came together and he talked to us. And a state rep was one of the ones who kind of opened for us, and some of the names that we know were in the room. And the conversation was about black Texans. James himself said, I believe black people in Texas are the swing vote for 2026. And when I hear that from a candidate, you have all of your data, you have all of your research. That's what I was feeling, that tracked. And then there were a couple of things that he said in there that, I feel I can confidently say because he was saying it publicly elsewhere too. It's not black versus white, it's us versus green, right? Us versus the billionaires.
Right.
That is actually not what black Texans want to hear.
Okay.
We hear that a lot from a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not race anymore, it's class. Y'all, yeah, you're right, it is class. It's class, it's economics, and it's race. And black people know this better than everybody. Because historically, throughout time, space and time, everybody comes over here, and a lot of folks do their absolute best to move closer to America's definition of whiteness, and they have that ability to do that. There's one group that doesn't, and that's us. And so we get the brunt of all the bad things, and the good things that come our way, there's always caveats, asterisks, and why they got that, right? Race is always there.
Yeah. Criminal
justice, health, economics, education, it's always there. So don't say it's not black versus white. You're right, it's not us. We're not going against somebody, but institutional and historical and structural and interpersonal racism are a real thing, and it affects our lives daily.
Yeah.
So when you say something like that, you're literally telling black people, I don't get you. I don't understand you.
Yeah.
I think I do, because I'm bold enough to say that, but I really don't.
Let's talk about that, Byron.
Yeah.
I think I totally agree with you in so many ways in terms of politicians kind of coming up and then just being totally oblivious to the group. We do the same roundtables probably, and it's it's going to be Latino roundtables, and you're going to have people kind of coming in and telling us this or that, and then the subtle subtext in our minds is like, you don't know us. That isn't important to us. It isn't this. It isn't that.
Yeah.
It's generally the mantra of the campaign. And I've heard this from James, on a few occasions in terms of versus the billionaires, which I get. I mean, it can be workable in his head, in his context, in terms of what's there. But I want to, if we can, just kind of talk a little bit about your experience with respect to the African American community and what they value in terms of what they want to see and what they want to hear and what's important. Because I was Beto's political advisor back in 2018 in that run that he had. And for him, I thought he did an excellent job with the African American community.
He did a lot better.
Did a whole lot of stuff, and he'd be there, and he was just kind of genuine and comfortable. Being comfortable around people.
Yes, sir.
People get that when they know. And this, I want to talk a little bit about us, so people can kind of get us there.
Absolutely.
And why and what, so that we can have expanded conversations. Because lots of times we don't have these honest conversations about what's what.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of friends in my past, Latinos in particular, who may not feel as comfortable around black folks. And I'm thinking in my head, why? But then I start thinking about my experience. I grew up in a probably a relatively segregated neighborhood. I didn't have much exposure to African Americans, but I went to a day camp every summer.
Yeah.
And it was for lower economic folks.
That's it.
And that's where my longest lasting relationships were in that context with African American folks and kids, and we were just kids. From there, and then I went to St. Thomas Aquinas. There was one African American kid the whole 8 years that I was there. Never had any exposure. Then I get to North Dallas High School. Start playing football, and my best friends just kind of come from that. Those are my my friends, and you truly aren't looking at color. I mean, it's just the way it is. So as a grown-up, having friends that are my friends and to be like, I don't know this person, I'm not sure what this is all about. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it in the eyes of white politicians coming to me in one context and then talking about the black experience.
Right. Yeah.
You got to understand people, but you got to have a conversation with them, and it can't be, I'm going to tell you what I'm all about.
Yeah.
It's got to be what we were talking about earlier, one, listening, and then, hey, this is going to be about listening, if that's going to be the conversation, or if it's going to be something else. That's where the communication is incredibly important. So if you could, just a little bit in terms of for the folks listening, what does it mean to be approachable, to be a type of candidate that can be somebody that understands or at least listens to the black community?
One, showing up is the number one thing. Literally, show up. Show up, and this is. I understand how difficult it is to do for somebody who's running a statewide campaign, because everybody wants you.
Right.
Everybody wants you. But where you spend your time conveys a message.
That's right.
And if you said black Texans are the swing vote in Texas in 2026, then you damn well better show that.
Right.
So when you show up, we need to see you showing up authentically. Here's what we don't like, and I can't tell you.
As you wink,
bro, I mean,
wipe that brow and
brother,
listen.
If you show up and you show up for the photo ops, if we feel that, you go to the chicken shack, or you go to the barber shop, or you go someplace here or there, and you're just showing up, right? And you might, put some hot sauce on your greens or something like that, and that's it. But we don't ever hear any substance. That stuff is okay. And if you don't back that up with you saying that you have an actual policy agenda that is addressing the sincere issues in black Texas, then you look like you're pandering and you look inauthentic, and we are not going to rock with it.
Yeah.
The other thing is, so I'm letting you inside the house right now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate the invitation.
Indeed. So when you go to certain places and you show up in the way where, well, let me ask you this. Can you tell somebody who has grown up in like the barrio versus somebody who is Hispanic, but oftentimes might have a harder time connecting with the Hispanic population across multiple different cultural dynamics, right?
Right.
There's a way where you are not picking up on the subtle cues on what being black in Texas in these urban areas that's his triangle right here. So when I say the triangle, I'm talking about DFW, I'm talking about Houston, and I'm talking about the Central Texas, kind of San Antonio, Austin areas, right? That's the Texas triangle. Where did you go when you came to Dallas to say, I'm going to Black Dallas? Because if we didn't see you for real, having real conversations in the black churches in Oak Cliff and South Dallas. If we didn't see you going to the events that was not your event, but you knew where to pull up because the thing was happening, right? The back to school festival that's coming up is happening and you're not there. Or the big event, could have been anything. Could have been the MLK parade or something like that, right? If you're not there at those places, then what it's conveying is that you want us to come to you, but it doesn't look like you want to come to us.
Right.
Another thing that says, I don't understand you.
Yeah.
So then the last thing, when you show up to these places, platitudes, saying that I really appreciate this community, And you talk about, the all of the challenges that slavery wrought and all of those different things, and saying all these truisms that are true. And that's the first page of the Google links, right? Like,
Exactly.
it doesn't look like you did a lot of learning.
Yeah.
What we want to see is an evolution in your understanding of the things that matter. Are you talking about economic empowerment? We're under attack right now. They just illegally, by the way, erased DEI for minority suppliers and minority businesses in Texas. What are you going to do about that?
Right.
That is a huge transfer of wealth vehicle that our community has needed for a long time, for a lot of really important reasons that we can double click on. Health. One of the biggest things that exists in this world that a lot of people don't know about is that it is more dangerous to be a pregnant woman in South Dallas as a black woman than it is to have a baby in some what folks would consider third world countries, because of black maternal mortality. And then for black men, we are one of the highest, we're one of the most likely to become a victim of prostate cancer. We are one of the most likely to become a victim of the exacerbations of diabetes. Black access to the healthcare system is terrible for black men and for black women. We can keep going down the road on incarceration, the study that, 1 in 3 black men before they die will have an interaction with either prison or jail.
Yeah.
Like, it's all of that stuff. Show up and talk about the problems, but then talk about something that you're going to do about it. Yeah. What are your solutions that you want to bring to the table? And this is the last thing I'll say, because I know I've been long-winded on this, but when you show up to the right places, you actually come and you're authentically connecting. Talk about the issues that you see, bring solutions. But you know what? What also we hear is when you'll talk black stuff in a black space, but we'll never hear our name again in mixed company. That's one of the that's that next level that I'm saying can break people out of, oh, this is going to be business as usual from any statewide candidate. Right. You know what you can do? You can go to mixed company, and if I'm sitting here talking about how I want to create access to healthcare for all Texans, one of the examples that I can bring up is that black maternal death rate, that black male likelihood of getting a prostate cancer diagnosis and then dying from it being significantly higher than others. Use it as an example. We're not asking to be prioritized over any other group of Texans, but what we are asking for is for a candidate to finally say, I see you specifically. And if we use something called curb cut theory, this is a real thing that's out there. That is a strategy that so few people embrace, but if we do, it'll change the game. Curb cut theory is this. Americans with Disability Act was passed. In order to get federal funding for a lot of your projects and everything else that you're wanting to do, you gotta have curb cuts on the sidewalk, a ramp to get onto the sidewalk, right? Why did we do that? For people who are wheelchair accessible. Right. But let's think about it. Have you ever benefited from that little ramp? Anybody who's ever had to move a refrigerator has. Right. Anybody who's ever had to have a stroller and their kids and take them out for a walk has. Anybody who's been walking with maybe their elderly relative or something, just not stepping off and twisting your ankle. We all use the ramp. Right. It was designed for the most marginalized, though. If we design things and we build from the edges for the most marginalized groups, guess what? It's going to be better for all of us. That's how we need people to start thinking about the black community. If you design some things with them in mind, I guarantee you that the system is going to be better for everybody. Use your language to call it out, be nuanced. We're not saying, become Huey P. Newton. We know that's not gonna win, statewide, but also call us out. Act like you see us, show up, and be authentic when you come.
Certainly, an experience that you have makes you, who you are today. I've got some experiences that make me do the things that I do, and not until I've gotten older and started looking back and start realizing why I am the way I am, why I do the things that I do, what is important to me, what my priorities are. It's based on, experience, exposure. You get somebody who comes in and when someone is, from a white upbringing and does X, Y, Z, and then comes into and tries to figure out the Latino community, figure out the Black community, it can be difficult. But if you truly are concerned, if you're interested, you're going to invest some time in making sure that the voices around you, the immediate voices around you, can provide that perspective.
Brother,
we got to have that perspective.
That's it.
We've got an arc. You've got somebody, and James is relatively young. He's in his 30s. People are starting to become younger and younger to me.
Right.
How's the dude right ever said it?
You're static. Everything else is moving.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
In my head, at least.
Yeah.
And so, seeing that, or kind of the initial, presentation that you guys made before Jasmine had jumped into everything, and seeing the current arc of where he's at as we sit, a few months to November, and still questions kind of linger about his approach to the Black community, his approach to the Latino community, people of color kind of going forward. Do you see a growth arc, or have you seen? Because you're, like I said, your post was very interesting to me, because it seemed like, hey, we need to move past, having to have, Jasmine explain herself or be there, and it's got to be him. It's got to be his outreach. It's got to be. Have you seen that? I think you had mentioned that you may have had a conversation with him, or since then. Tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind sharing.
So fortunately, I have. Up until this week, though, or last week, whenever I posted it, I hadn't.
Right.
And that was scary to me because, to your point, it's July.
Yeah.
Right. We literally are in the fourth quarter right now of the game. So I that post that I put up that went semi-viral, I thought long and hard about it, because I actually don't like doing that. I prefer to go directly to the group or the team and all that stuff. And I didn't tell you this, but after that Black community meeting, I had a separate meeting with the team. Man, I'm gonna tell you, I built out, literally, me and a couple of other people worked on this, and we built out a guide that said, literally, I'm saying this, say this, not that, with a ton of different elements, things that we knew were important to him that were part of his platform. Here's how you talk about Black people in that. Right. And then I said, here's how you talk about Black people to Black audiences. Then here's how you say that same thing in mixed company. Right. Like, it couldn't have been more clear, Eric.
He laid the blueprint.
Literally laid it out there. Don't pay here.
Yeah.
And I saw none of that.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that in the social. I didn't see any of that on these podcasts. I didn't see it. I was hearing none of it. And so, one, a little frustrating, because you're like, well, I mean, we spent some really good time to build if somebody were to pay for it, what we put in for it would have been thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right.
Gave it to them for free. And but I also said, along with that, you do have some money. You need to put those into the hands of some really credible Black folks who can help you actually execute on their strategy. So it wasn't all just give everything away. But we had that conversation. I didn't see any changes.
Yeah.
So I made several phone calls because I needed to check my notes. One, I'm one person. I don't know everything that's happening in the world. I have no idea all of the things that their team is doing. So I call people that would know. If you're trying to do it in Dallas, you got to talk to these folks. I called them to a person. They're like, it's been thin, if any. It's been very perfunctory, so no, man. And so I was like, you know what? I have no idea if they're going to respond to what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say something. And hopefully maybe the uniqueness of me not typically doing this might get a little bit more attention. So I put up the post. And I said everything that we talked about before. Move on from Jasmine. This ain't about Jasmine. Anybody who keeps saying that everybody else who's saying something right now is only saying that because they have sour grapes over Jasmine. I was like, move on from that. Listen to what I'm telling you. And you know what? Since I try to live a solutions-oriented life, here's what we are saying are some things that could help you. There's a lot more, but these are some starters. Anyway, it started getting shared by, I think, a lot of folks who are in his circle and probably got sent to them directly. I know there are a few people who sent it directly, and I did get a call. But it wasn't just me. I learned from several of the folks who were in the DFW area that they were getting calls too. And it looks like their machines started moving differently. Here's what I think happened, Eric. We were talking about this just a little bit. Every poll that comes out is going to say black people will absolutely be going for James Talarico. Every single poll. If you're polling and somebody answered, yes. In the 90s, something high 90 percentiles now, because this is going to be, well, because we've been living under this administration. I think oftentimes statewide, this is what I mean by being taken for granted. Statewide folks look at those numbers and they're like, oh, I'm doing good with the black community. No.
Right.
What you got was somebody who either picked up the phone or answered the email. You already have a selection bias of somebody who's to some degree tied in or is some degree responsive. You're not going to win with those people.
Right.
The ones we need to win are the ones who are the cousins of those people. And how do they get excited to show up? So the question can't be, is it James Talarico or Ken Paxton? It's going to be James Talarico. The question should be, is it James Talarico or is it James Talarico, that's my guy? That's the question. And if we don't have the answer to that, or if the answer to that is what I was hearing and what I was feeling and what the vibes in our community was around that, then we're going to lose. So that's why I went live, and I've seen a response. I saw an Instagram post maybe 3 days after that, where James was literally talking about black people on, I think, 97, or the Beat version down in Houston. I don't know if he took it from the deck that we gave him, but it was pretty close. It was pretty close. He was saying the right things. He didn't just show up. He was saying the right things.
Let's talk about a couple of things that you just mentioned, Byron. Your enthusiastic vote isn't still gonna be a vote, right?
Yeah.
What it is, the difference, of course, is the numbers, right? So if you've got folks who are going to come out, because, and I do want to get into this a little bit in terms of how both the Republican and Democratic Party just take for granted the African American vote. You guys you vote at a consistently high clip. And it's Democrat. So just like you're saying, it's not going to be a choice. Well, I'm going to go vote for Paxton. That's not going to happen. But it's going to be the turnout. Colin Allred lost, this last Senate run by quite a few, but about 1.5 million registered African Americans didn't come out and vote. So it's a situation where you're just going to have less people coming out. It's not going to be. You're still going to probably be in the 90s. In terms of the actual turnout, but it's just, if you don't have 1.5 million people coming out to vote, it's just not going to work for you. Same thing with the Latino community. We voted at a shorter clip. We don't vote in the same numbers, although we have higher numbers of registered voters. We just don't come out in the numbers that are just consistent in terms of what's there. This election, at least in my opinion, and maybe I am just, it's hard to talk to you because I know how hyped and how important this election is. And I think it's for most. I don't think I'm missing anything here. For me, this election means everything.
It's for the marbles, man.
It is. We're talking about a 53 to 47 number push for Republicans versus Dems in the Senate. The Senate has done some things. I am every day looking at whether or not they're going to do something to pass that damn SAVE Act, which is going to be incredibly disenfranchising. And they're like, don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. They need 60. Like, bullshit. This guy pulls enough stuff and this could happen.
That's right.
So I'm very careful of that on a daily in terms of what's there. But about 35 senators are going to go up this November. There could be a huge shift. We're talking about blue waves in November, and we're talking about that possibility. There's been a lot of talk about it. What I haven't seen and what I'm overly concerned about is the timing and the action. That's why your post really hit me in terms of, hey, if we're not doing something today, we're going to see the same stuff happening in November, the same people going out and voting in November. So just in terms of the numbers themselves, it's got to be not only an enthusiastic vote for Talarico, but it's got to be people coming out. And we can't just rely on, well, hey, we're voting against the administration. My goodness, how Paxton is polling, where he's polling with Talarico is beyond me if you're a sane American citizen, but it is what it is, right? So what do you think James Talarico has to do on today to November to ensure, one, of course, the exciting the African American base, getting them out and voting? What can he do? I think I like the way James speaks. I love the stuff that he's doing. I love the person. You can tell the guy's got integrity. He's somebody I'd love to sit down, have a chat with. Not as exciting, not as evocative. And I love Jasmine for that. I love what she's doing. I love how progressive she is, and then she just talks without concern about what she's got. I got to be careful about what I'm saying and doing. No, this is it. You get reality out of her. I'd love to see James do that. That's not his character.
Right.
So tell me what you think from here going forward he really needs to do, not necessarily just in the African American community get the vote out, but just across the board in terms of beating Paxton.
So the thing that I help people understand what you and I are talking about, I always bring up the difference between white church and black church. You know what I'm saying? And the place where you see it is when the speaker, whoever it is the pastor or the person giving the announcements, steps up and they start talking. You're in black church or white church by what happens after they say good morning. Because in white church, they say good morning and then they finish reading whatever they were about to read. They just keep going. Good morning. Whatever. Black church.
Have you been to a lot of white churches?
I have been to a lot of white churches. and here's black church, it's good morning. And then everybody says good morning back. But usually, it doesn't matter how loud you said good morning back the first time. They said, I said good morning, church. And then we all yell louder, good morning, right? Like that's it. There's a energy, there's an ancestral power that comes in a call and response. We don't just want to hear you, we need to feel you. So, and then sometimes I'll just forget which part of church I'm in, right? So I'll be doing like black church stuff at white church, and then they say good morning. I'm the only one yelling out good morning right after the announcements. And so what we ultimately, though, are going to have to do is, because that's the reality. And you know what? If James all of a sudden started to show up and was like, trying to do his version of black church, everybody would be like, relax, bro. You're not that guy. Just chill. But what we need him to do is engage his surrogates. We need for him to literally both inspire and equip people who are able to be those folks, those voices, to not only want to do it, that's the inspiration part, but two, when I go, I better have a toolkit. And the toolkit isn't just, hey, here's what the platform is. We know how to make it shake if we can get that. But you know what? Sure does help if you have a machine behind us that's giving us some good media tools, that's giving us a good message or a good campaign. There's a brother who has created a phenomenal bit of work. I'm not even going to say his name because I don't know. They might engage him, they might not. But I've said, y'all need to work with him because what I saw that he's designed for this specific campaign is exactly the kind of thing that I'm talking about. So Talarico and the team need to engage One, getting all of their surrogates together, and when they get them together, give them the kit of what it means to go out and be a Talarico supporter, a black Texan Talarico supporter. And then, you know what? We'll do the work. We'll tell you where to show up and when to show up. We also know you can't be everywhere. So you're gonna have to make choices. We get it. We're all adults. We're all strategic. But you gotta give us those tools. And we have to be charged. We have to be charged and we have to be ready to go, because that's the only way that he's gonna break through, you know, be able to talk to my cousins and them. And here's the other thing that is another strategy that people don't recognize, because they like, yeah, well, he can't spend all of his time here in Dallas because Texas is a big state. You're right. You shouldn't spend all of your time. But guess what? A lot of folks, whenever everybody thinks about rural, they automatically think white people. White, rural Texas. I don't know if y'all been to East Texas recently. I'll tell you this. If you find anybody who's been in Texas for a long time, for multiple generations, some of and they're black in urban settings. If they're black in Fort Worth, black in Dallas, black in Houston, black in San Antonio, they got people from East Texas.
Right.
And not only do they have people who are historically from East Texas, they got people who are in East Texas right now. I'm on a text thread with my people from East Texas. Ask people where they go for their family reunions. They're usually going out to Tyler, Longview, Nacogdoches, San Augustine, Port Arthur. If you can get black people in the urban centers, you can get black people in the rural communities as well. And there's a lot of us out there. It actually, once you go to East Texas, starts to look a lot more like the demographics of Houston, of Mississippi, of Alabama, of Georgia. And those states have the highest black percentages in the entire country. People forget Texas has more black people than any other state in the country, and they don't all live in Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Austin. There's just a lot of us here, but our connections are throughout the entire state. So if you do those things, you can do, man, and then you show up when we tell you to show up at the things where you're gonna get the biggest return on investment, you can get black people out. Eric, and the thing I'm speaking with such passion here because it's so frustrating, because it's not rocket science. We just need somebody to listen to the people telling you to do the thing. And I can't think of a statewide candidate that has fully fulfilled the strategy of what I'm talking about here. Beto came closest, but I'm gonna say it. Oftentimes the Democratic machine brings people in to a Texas race who don't know nothing about Texas. And the resources that come are valuable and necessary. They're necessary. But they don't come with the right advice on what to do when you get down here. And if we can have people listen to the right voices here, that's going to be important. The last thing I'll say on that is, because we're trying to win this race, but the reason why John Ossoff, the reason why Warnock are able to do what they do in a deep red state is because there was organizing, resources, and everything, infrastructure being built year round, even when there wasn't a major race that was next week. So if we do that, we can win. Eric, we can do it, brother.
One thing about Beto's campaign, you talked about surrogates. That was we'd have meetings every few days, and would be about, are you taking care of the surrogates? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? He was really a people person. We'd go out to events, and we'd be there, and he'd have 10 events in a day. And he'd sit there and listen to everybody who wanted to talk to him. I'm like, Beto, we got to move.
We got to go, brother. Come on.
And he'd just sit there and do it. You'd have to pull them away. You'd have to really, because he really had a genuine.
He did.
He wanted to listen. He wanted to listen to what people were saying. All right, we know that Talarico, and this number kind of jumped out at me because I remember when we hit the $70 million mark in Beto's campaign, and then that's when things started flying. Started concentrating. I was literally concentrating on the Latino vote in that campaign. And I had, I started saying, hey, we need to go into these communities. We need to start having, the optics behind it. We need to have the Viva Beto signs, which we hadn't touched. Nobody had even contemplated those possibilities of making things happen. But it was that back then the Latino vote was going to be a little bit more of a tipping point for him. We're dealing with a Talarico who's coming out of a primary with Jasmine. And that in and of itself created some problems for him, specifically in the African American community, because I know and I've seen, some other clips and other folks talking about this, black folks being very upset how people were putting the blame on Jasmine, and I totally get it. Like, Jasmine has no obligation as an individual to support or go forward. And then some on the other side are saying, well, shit, we got to win in November, and she's got to do this. And she's like, nope, she doesn't have to do this. So that's where that back and forth kind of puts itself. He just made, what, $25-30 million in this quarter. He's going to be raising a heck of a lot more. You talk about putting your money where your mouth is. You talk about putting, if things are important to you, if the African American vote is important to you, where are you going to put your money? What are you going to put it into? Are you really looking to make these things happen? One last thing, I want to kind of get some feedback from you, just in terms of how things kind of operate. Beto's campaign, there were a lot of, we got caught by surprise. I mean, going through it, he just kind of took off. It was like a cult of personality combination of things. It just made things happen. I think James had the benefit of that initially. In a whole lot of ways. He's coming from, the House of Representatives. He's got staff, that become his staffers, and become, maybe his campaign folks and other things, that loyalty, which is important. But you're not talking about running for state rep. You're talking about running and winning in Texas. In Texas, with its 250 some odd counties, you're talking about zones that are just incredibly different. And as you just kind of touched on, where African Americans are located, you talk about East Texas. A lot of people don't realize that. They think of these hubs, and you're talking about Houston and Dallas and in other areas. It's not all about that. That's not how you win. I think his campaign is kind of keyed in on that. I think they're about the metrics. I think they're about putting some stuff together. I think they've gotten a really slow start. Some of the things that were happening with Colin early on, you just get a combination of things that just don't work.
They got a two-piece.
Can he get by this? Can he bounce back?
Absolutely he can. Absolutely he can. But you better get going. And the reason why he can, and one of the things that he did recently is what it's going to take. So he was on that radio spot down in Houston on the beat, and he said he with 10 toes down, full chest, said, "Stop asking Jasmine to come win this race for me. She has done enough. She endorsed me. That's all we need. It is not up to her to win. It's up to me to win. So I'm telling everybody, stop it. It's us, and we're going to go and get it." That was important. Here's the reason why that's important. Black women particularly. If we just look at any demographic, you break it down to race, and then you break it down to the gender within that race. James will get the highest percentage of black women than any other demographic that's out there. Also, black women have been the electoral anchor even in the black community for years and years. Not just electoral, but organizing, everything. We know the voice. We know lots about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but more people should know about Fannie Lou Hamer. Right? More people should know about the Juanita Craft House here in Dallas. Black women in particular had a lot of hard feelings through this race. And it wasn't necessarily because it's what James said, it's what people kept saying about Jasmine. That absolutely are things that black women hear in their professional lives, in their civic lives, in their social lives, and everything else. They talk about how you got all of the qualifications. You have the education, you got the experience, and you're really smart. But I just don't know if it's not me. It's I'm thinking about all the other people. I just don't know if people can see themselves being led by a black woman. Happened with Kamala Harris. Happened again with Jasmine. Yeah, they're pissed. They're angry.
Right.
They're angry, and you are the avatar of that anger. And if you walk around whistling Dixie like you just, like, I never said, no, you didn't say that, but your supporters are. If you can't acknowledge that, if you can't hold that and sit in that publicly with black voters and black women in particular, then yeah, you're gonna struggle.
Yeah.
That's gotta be a part of this. One way or another, that's gotta be a part of it.
We were having a conversation earlier, to be quite candid, and honestly, I felt that same way. I felt that same way with some folks that, again, that I've, known for a very long period of time, some, white progressive folks who I'm friendly with. Some of the things that kind of came out and just, it was disheartening and upsetting for me. And I'm a Hispanic male, a little bit older, and it, but the things that I heard about Jasmine and after that and then since, that pisses me off. Yeah. And and you're absolutely right, James. For better or worse, it doesn't have to necessarily come out of his mouth, but he may need to quash it, to the extent that he can. And I think he is doing. I think he is. I think he's recognizing it, finally, and trying to do something about it. Yeah. And you talk about finality. You talk about does he get it? Yeah. Things go on in a campaign, and you're in 150 different directions. Exactly. You got people thinking they know how to win your campaign, and when you reach out and people don't get back to you, I can't tell you how many people that I upset by saying we can't make it to your event. I know, man. Yeah. We're gonna have to cancel your event. And people that I've known for years, and they're like, screw you. I'm like, hey, man, it's not me. We just can't make it. Yeah. So I get that part of it, but we're not just talking about individuals. We're talking about a strategy. We're talking about an approach and one that he needs to win. I mean, that's just the reality of where this needs to be. He needs to. And again, I think he understands it, but how do you deal with it? He's got the money coming down, I think, that's right. And he's got to get the right people around him to kind of advise him. Yeah. And how do we do that? How do we? You can do the outreach, and I get your position in terms of, nothing's really happening. You put out a post, people see it, and then it starts getting back to the campaign. Understandable, but how do you get that long-term collective, hey, we got to do this, not just you, but us, empower us, as Sarah gets, or whatever the case may be, kind of make this thing happen, because November for me is just, it's everything. It's everything. So the good thing is, I actually had a conversation with Talarico's team after that post. They reached out. Right. They did get people's attention. It got their attention. They reached out and we had a conversation. They had won. The good news was they weren't waiting on my conversation, because there were a couple of days between the posts. I had to go, whatever, we talked. They'd already kind of sprung into action on some things, which is great. And they were already talking with some really good people between that post and between that post and in our conversation. I saw a post where they were down in Luby's in Oak Cliff, over close to the Redbird area, where all of our seasoned saints, that's the hangout, that's the turn up, right? And it was a full house. And Talarico was down there talking with our black elders, many of whom are super, you're either a super social media user if you're in our elder population, or you don't use it at all, right? So him showing up down there was actually really, really important. It was a really powerful gesture. Okay. So we're starting to see momentum happening. I also happen to know, based on the conversation, I'm not going to break any news here, but there's going to be some really important strategic meetings that are happening over the next few days with a group of black leaders. Okay. And leaders by multiple different definitions, because that's the other part too. What you can't expect is that everybody with the suit and tie and the honorable this and that are going to be your way to get into the community. Right. Hell, we have our own problems with electoral turnout, right? So you're going to have to go get some voices that are atypical. You're going to have to show up on some media that ain't usual. And it seems like they're listening to that. So I think we're going to be able to get there, but we will know if they really are about that life when people start to feel the momentum. And I know it's about data. You gotta
You got to get your block walking strategy going. You got to make sure you're all looking at the numbers. You're looking at the polls. How are we polling? But there's got to be a vibe, and that vibe will happen with a lot of these things happening together, and you'll know it once you see them start to embrace people who can speak in the coded cover of what moves Black people. The campaign will start to look differently. The social media posts that's showing up on the regular James Talarico for Texas social media, you're going to see his usual thing, because we're not asking you to deviate from the things that's going to help you go get West Texas. It's going to help you make sure that you're getting rural and suburban, white, evangelical. Keep going for that. But we're going to see there's going to be a post in that feed that says, Black folks, I'm talking to you. If we see that, then we know that the message has landed and that we're making momentum. That's when you'll start to see the surrogates take that, share it, and make it their own. That's when you'll see the surrogates being able to say, you come here, you'll be here, and they're going to introduce him before James Talarico talks. And their introduction is not going to be happenstance. It's not going to be soft. It's going to be a full-throated, fire and brimstone appreciation. And when we see our big churches start to give him stage and not just the stand up and wave thing, then we know we've made momentum. If we don't see that, then Lord knows I never say die, but it's going to be tough.
All right, we've got a few more minutes, Byron. I want to talk to you maybe in the grander context of beyond this particular campaign.
Yeah.
Where we are, where the Democratic Party kind of lies, where the Republican Party is.
Yeah.
A few years back, I started, an organization called March to the Polls. And
fantastic organization.
And what more than anything else, it's because of my history of seeing and realizing through legislation and other things that the total disenfranchisement of specifically Latino voters.
Yeah.
But others as well.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of affect, voter turnout in the African American communities by certain means, a lack of accessibility to voting areas and centers. With Latinos, generally, hey, you create obstacles to registration because they're going to be first-time voters. Then you figure this out, and it's the voter ID laws that have just become totally commonplace, where young Latinos just aren't able to get the necessary licensing to do these things. You create additional obstacles. That's always been my push, and the reason why we got to get civic engagement back going for young people. With that kind of said, in terms of what our Democratic leadership has done at the state level, I've always had concern, and it's always been, well, Texas for the last 30 years is Republican. There's no outside monies coming in because we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. In my opinion, if Tarrant County goes blue, then the presidency is blue forever.
Exactly.
Because the state of Texas goes blue, and then we run off. But nobody has, it seems.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of lack of leadership at the state level, and it's gotten a little bit better, I think, over the last couple of years. But what are your thoughts in terms of, one, just Democratic leadership at the top, and maybe even Republican? Because I honestly, I am very much, I believe that once we start getting voter numbers among Latinos up, not that I'm gonna encourage them to become Republican, but you change the Republican rhetoric, you change the Republican Party legislation and ideology, which has just killed the Latinos, which is currently killing us. Literally. With respect to ICE and some of the other things that are happening, the detention facilities that are popping up, you find some equity. You get Republicans saying, hey, these aren't the boogeyman, these aren't the bad people.
That's right.
Where we've been in the last couple of years, that we're the freaking, the devil.
Yeah.
So for me, one, has the Democratic Party done enough at the state level to be approachable to people of color? Are we taking them for granted? What do we need to do to kind of change that modeling? And kind of where do we go beyond maybe November?
One, to answer your question, no, the statewide Democratic Party has not done enough to get to that next level beyond, the elected officials, beyond the headliners that we always know and can rattle off. And I think, we're talking about statewide, and I think that's because the National Democratic Party, they don't respect us down here.
Yeah.
They and we see this in politics, we see this in the nonprofit sector, we see this everywhere. People assume the headlines of Texas is what Texas is. You know how many people are shocked when I tell them, yes, we have more black people in Texas than any other state in the country. They're like, well, New York?
Are you sure about that?
Are you sure about that? I get that every single time.
Yeah.
People still, whenever I go out of town or I'm somewhere, they'll ask us about tumbleweeds in Dallas. I was like, Dallas?
I've seen a couple of tumbleweeds.
I was like, have you been to Dallas?
My backyard.
I had a friend who was shocked because they thought they were going to fly into Dallas and then go real quick visit their friend in Houston. I was like, that's, you can, but
catch a plane.
How many days you got, homie? Because that's not a quick trip, real quick. People don't understand Texas.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, so they definitely don't understand Texas, and they really don't understand black Texans. Just like I said, most people won't think about black people when they think about rural Texas.
Right.
It's super black,
right.
Heavily black. What I hope, what I pray, is that similar to what Stacey Abrams was able to do in Georgia, show through data and actual evidence-based projections and strategies that we do have a sleeping giant here in the state. With the black and Latino communities, we have a sleeping giant. And you know what? The rest of the country is going to look a whole heck of a lot like Texas here in a few years. So goes Texas, so goes the nation.
Right.
So you better start paying attention because this is our future. This is the future for literally all of us. And it is ridiculous to concede the highest percentage votes for Democratic folks simply for lack of effort. It's crazy. It actually is mind-boggling. We would never allow this in finance. If you saw an investment that had the highest yield and you just simply decided not to spend your time there or not to invest, and then you look at your portfolio and you're like, dang man, why am I not growing as much? You're leaving so much on the table. So what I hope and pray is that through this energy that's going right now about the black vote here in Texas, and for us to not just focus on, because usually we're focused on get out the vote. We're focused on turning our people out. But what we're starting to see right now is that we are still focused on that, and we're bringing it, you're starting to hear the clarion calls and you guys are taking us for granted. We're doing two things. We're running and we're saying, you better start to take us seriously because you're losing because you're not. I think if we do that and we convey this message well and we start to tell a better story about what Texas actually is and who the people are here, I think we can get people who are outside of us to think about us differently and the people who are at the state level to think about us differently as well. But ultimately, it's got to be people telling the story.
Yeah.
We have to own our story. And just being honest, we got to take our hands to vote too. The fact that we have the voter participation that we have in Dallas County, it shouldn't be this bad.
Yeah.
There are, yes, we can make excuses for it, but also at some point, save yourself, man.
Right.
You got to show up and vote.
Right.
And so that's the work. It's not easy work. It's not work that any one person is responsible for or can do. It's going to take all of us, but it's going to take all of us. And the last thing I'll say is coalition building.
Talk about it.
Our communities, we got beef that should not be beef.
Tell me what's important to the black community.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna run through my list. Education, economic empowerment, housing, and not being overly policed. These are all really important things for us.
Incredibly important to our communities.
Well, I'll be down.
Well,
how about that?
Yeah. And we need to just like you're saying, we need to talk more. We need to kind of break down some of the walls
100%.
that have been created artificially in a whole lot of ways, and kind of come together and realize the incredible power that we possess.
That's right.
Byron, it's a real pleasure speaking with you today, man.
Brother, I appreciate you. Thank you for your platform. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your service here and nationally, brother. You're a legend, and I consider it a privilege to know you, man.
I appreciate you, Byron. All right, brother.
All right, brother.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.